Zero population growth is deflationary. Now, this is a very interesting article by Ed Yardeni. I've followed Ed for a long time, actually, so I didn't know he was writing for Newsmax. This is interesting. So let's look at his bio. He's been around for a long time, actually, old Ed here. So he's been, Yardeni Research. Yeah, man. Did he write? Let's see. He published articles, Wall Street Journal. I think he's written some books. Let's see what books he's written, because I'm a big fan, man. Hold on just a second. So here's yeah, man. You should follow Ed here. Predicting the markets, S&P valuation, earnings in a pandemic, stock buy. Yeah, good stuff. Big fan. First time, long time. I thought he had written. Seems like another book though. Let's see. I thought he had written. Anyway, good stuff. So I'm a fan of Ed. All right, so let's read this. So, deflationary is. You know me. I think we are in a deflationary cycle for probably the extent of our lives, for sure. Does that mean we won't have bouts of inflation? No, not at all. But especially depopulation or a decelerating demographic. So anyway, global demography, death toll. In chapter 16 of my book, Predict the Markets. Man, I think I have that book. Hold on just a sec. What is that book, Predict the Markets? I think I got this, man. I don't remember being that cover, though. When did he write that? All right, anyway, let's just keep going. Oops. All right. I observed that fertility rates have dropped below replacement rates around the world as a result of urbanization. Only in India and Africa are couples having enough babies to replace themselves. Humans are on a demographic path of self-extinction. Leading the way has been Japan. I often describe this country as the world's largest nursing home. That distinction undoubtedly will soon belong to China. All around the world, nursing homes will be bulging with more occupants, while the maternity wards will have lots of vacant cribs. Healthcare REITs, man. I'm going to do another video here in just a second on REITs, because this is the economic consequences of these demographic trends will be slower growth and subdued inflation, if not outright deflation. That means that interest rates will likely remain historically low for a very long time. Let me pause, not pause, but let me just say just a sec. We're hearing, I've talked about this a couple times, about the a huge rise in the 10-year Treasury. So there's a 10-year Treasury, and everyone's like, look at that, oh my goodness, it's doubled in yield in the last, year. Oh my goodness. Well, just because we had a significant drop on its head because of stupid pandemic reaction. But just because it's gone up, it's just, it's being held underwater. Now it's finally getting back to get some oxygen. Anyway, that means this could be a positive for valuation multiples that investors are willing to pay for stocks, at least if you're able to grow your earnings at an above average rate. It should also be very positive for stocks that are able to grow their dividends in this demographically challenged environment. Could not agree more. A global shortage of workers should stimulate more labor-saving and labor-replacing technology and innovations, machines, AI, robots. The result should be faster productivity growth that should give lift to real wages that offset some of the slowdown in unemployment growth due to labor shortages. The scenario I just sketched isn't a forecast. It's a description of what's been happening in Japan. That forecast is that most of the rest of the world will follow suit. Japan is a poster child for the rest of us who aren't having enough babies to replace ourselves. Consider the following. Japan, on a 12-month basis, the number of deaths in Japan exceeded the number of live births for the first time during July 2007. On this basis, during July of this year, deaths exceeded live births by a record 351,000. Man, let's check this out. That's crazy. Look at that. Look at that. That's freaking frightening, man. Look at that. Live births minus deaths. 2007, there are more deaths than births. So Japan's population has been falling in recent years and rapidly aging. The percentage of the population that's 65 or older has increased from 25.2% to 28.2% at the end of last year. Yet the total labor force has actually been rising over the past few years. That's because the labor force participation rate has been moving. The problem is that more Japanese women have been entering the labor force and not getting married, which depresses the number of births. If that continues, the number of births will remain depressed. Let's just look at this again. Man, that's freaking nuts, man. The demographic trends go a long way towards explaining why Japan's inflation rate remains zero, despite the ultra-easy monetary policies of the Bank of Japan, which has been targeting a 2% inflation rate since January 2013. Let's check this out. So there's their target, and here's the inflation rate. So the core in the headline, look at that. And here's the target. China, the demographic profile of China isn't as geriatric as Japan's, but it's heading in that direction, accelerated by the government's one-child policy that was enforced from 1979. Never mind the people they killed under Mao, the millions and millions of people. For the first time ever, the percentage of seniors in the population at 6.6% matched the percentage of children under the age of 5. By the middle of this century, and that happened in 1998, by the middle of the century, the former is projected by the UN to rise to 26% of the seniors, while the latter falls to 4.6. Oh man, let's take a look at this. Look at that. So here we go, 1950 to 1998. The same amount of seniors as under 5, and then they're projecting to be, look at that. Young married adults who have no siblings must accept the burden of taking care of aging parents. Now that the government has declared that couples can have more than one child, many are likely to be overburdened by even having one because they got to take care of the parents. All this is weighing on China real estate sales growth, which has been a downtrend for the last several years. Let me just start. Oh, look at that. 2010, 12-year average of yearly percent change. Man. Let's see. The good news is that U.S. is the fertility rate is in line with the replacement rate. However, the demographic trends are heading in the wrong direction. Young people are staying single longer. Let me just tell you something, man. So I got 4 kids. My oldest is 20, and she's been on a couple dates. That's it in the course of her life. That's it. My other daughter, 17. Junior high school, I think it's been on not even one date, maybe. They go, and this. It's not because my girls are ugly or losers or anything. It's just this is the way it is, man. Younger women are being trained for the workforce, not to marry, which might be a good thing. I can no comment. I mean, people got to do what they got to do. Frankly, you make your decision for you, but you can't argue with the fact that more and more young ladies are neglecting even romantic relationships, which means they're inherently neglecting marriage at a younger age, because they're being trained for the workforce. And unfortunately, more and more men are not, I don't know what's happening. There's a war on men we all can recognize. Look, only idiots don't see this. And as such, the men are being valued less and less and less. And it's a problem. And there's no two ways around that. So you have women who are being trained for the workforce. Higher education is now more women than men by a pretty significant margin now. And men are just, there's a war on men are just walking around eggshells, and a lot of men are not even engaging. They're saying, I don't want the risk. That's not good. And as such, it's just going back to my own daughters. I mean, if they're not dating, and they're certainly not going to have kids anytime soon. I don't know. That's not good, man. And let's just go. Let's see. Newly married older couples are likely to have fewer children than younger couples. That's just a fact. The cost of college education is a downer for many couples, forcing them to consider how many kids they can afford. The proof is in the maternity wards. Over the past 12 months through March, live births in the U.S. totaled 3.84 million, the lowest since November 2017. Let me close some of these charts here real quick so we can open up this without taking up a lot of space. There we go. Man, this is freaking crazy. So we got total deaths. What was that? Live births and live deaths. 12-month sum. So the live births are dropping and the deaths are rising because more and more old people. So this is going to start getting closer and closer and closer. Meanwhile, as the baby boomers All right. Oh, so births exceeded deaths by 1.48 million in 2000. The most right here. Births exceeded deaths by 1.48 million, which is the lowest since they've been taking records. That's crazy. Meanwhile, as the baby boomers age, they're turning into minimalists. They don't need their big houses anymore. They don't need minivans to take the kids to practice. The millennials are natural born minimalists for reasons that Melissa and I have reviewed in the past on many occasions. Is that his better half? We don't view this as necessarily a bad news for the U.S. economy. We see these demographic trends as reducing the likelihood of an economic boom, which also reduces the likelihood of a bust. The business cycle expansion should continue and inflation should remain subdued. Yeah, I completely agree. Great article, Ed. I would highly subscribe to Ed and read his books. Big fan. Anyway, I'd like to hear your thoughts. It's interesting. Yeah, you can see productivity going up just by machines, man. I mean, you get rid of some of the lower hanging fruit from employees who can't do the job efficiently. It costs money, minimum wage, more and more healthcare you got to provide, more and more expenditures, more and more regulation, OSHA and all that. And you just get machines, it's going to reduce that lower end, which sucks, man, for people trying to come up. On the other hand, it might increase more entrepreneurs. But either way, it's definitely going to have a subduing effect on population growth. And people, again, like I said yesterday, are a net good. That's just a fact. So, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Thanks now.